Alright, so for week 6.1, I did case study 2.3 out of chapter 2, Benjamin versus State. On November 16th, 1979, Thomas Benjamin, at age 11, was struck while watching a hockey game at the Romney Arena, which is an arena on the campus of the University of New York at Oswego. I believe that's how you say it. So Benjamin is suing for his basically injuries that happened while attending that game, which would have been him getting struck in the head by the hockey puck. Just to give a little bit more information about what injuries occurred for him, I'll go to the text. So basically when the puck struck, Thomas Benjamin's head felt numb all over. He did not, however, lose any consciousness. He was administered first aid at the facility and then later taken to a local hospital where he was then discharged that night. The following morning, he awoke feeling nauseous, began to vomit. His parents immediately contacted a pediatrician who advised them that he be taken to the hospital. When at the hospital again in upstate New York, he was examined and given x-rays, where they saw that his skull was basically a palpable depression in the left frontal area. So like a divot or like a dent is what was in his head. A 4-millimeter depressed skull fracture was on the left orbit of the frontal bone, is what happened by being struck by the puck. Following his discharge from the hospital, the extent of his injuries was that he spent the next 2 weeks in bed. After that, he was allowed to get out of bed for brief periods of time. And then at the end of the month, he returned to school. During that period, he complained of pain and he was having difficulty with his equilibrium. When he did return to school, his activities were very limited. He was compelled to wear a protective helmet from time to time, especially in gym class. He also complained of headaches all the time. And then also a surgical scar measuring 4 inches in length, 2.5 inches outside of the hairline, were the only permanent damages that he had from the event. So, going back to now the University of New York at Oswego, the arena is laid out by the state for hockey. It is consistent with an oblong-shaped rink. It ran lengthwise in a north-south direction. It was enclosed by a dasher board, which is approximately 3.5 feet in height. 2 players' benches had been placed along the easterly sidelines. Elevated spectator benches surround the remainder of the rink. And then goals are placed at the north and south end. And to the rear of each goal along the sidelines, a protective fence measuring 6 feet and 3 feet in height were mounted atop the dasher board. The dasher board is normally that white board that runs around the whole rink, so if a skater's on it and runs into it, he's not going to fall off the ice rink. The fence, however, was not continuous. In front of each player's bench, a distance approximately 20 feet, no protective fencing had been installed, except for the dasher board, which is not protective fencing. It's only 3.5 feet tall. Alright, so at this hockey game, Thomas and his brother and his friends were originally behind the goals, which had the protective fencing. Well, after they went to go get a drink, they moved locations to behind the player benches, which did not contain the fencing. So while they were in the area that was non-fenced, that is when Thomas Benjamin was struck by the hockey puck. They called a third party in whenever they found out this happened. It was an uncontradicted testimony of the claimant's expert who testified for a structural defect in the arena at the New York campus. He testified that in similar facilities, it was the usual and customary practice to protect the area around the player's bench. Absent such protection, it was the usual and customary practice to restrict seating in that area without the zone of danger. Since neither course of action was chosen, he opinion that the state failed to provide Thomas with adequate protection that evening. When viewing the evidence in its totality, the court finds that the absence of the fence in front of the player's bench constituted a dangerous condition that presented a foreseeable risk of injury for those spectators. So I guess if you were a spectator going to an event like that, you would figure that the arena was safe enough for you to watch a hockey game without being struck by a puck. And it would be the arena's fault that they did not provide the protective fencing that is needed at a hockey game where a puck could fly into the crowd. Basically, after everything was said, the court did find that Thomas had been damaged. He did get a sum of $24,000 that was awarded to him accordingly.